press in the Down Beach Current were notified of this meeting, and a copy of the same was posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building and in the municipal website. The meeting will come to order. Would you please stand for the flag salute? Attention, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tom, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Becker.
Here.
Mr. Blumberg.
Here.
Ms. Taube.
Here.
What is your pleasure regarding the minutes of our February 7th meetings?
I'll make a motion we approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Mr. Becker.
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg.
Yes.
Ms. Taube.
Yes.
Is there any public comment? We have 3 minutes.
I've waited about 6 years to be able to do this, to do my soul imitation, so bear with me. Campbell, 403 North Huntington Avenue.
What do you think? One to scale, 1 to 10.
I have a couple questions, and then I want to make a statement, but it's been brought to my attention that the city is now going to be charging for the use of the stages by various charitable organizations and the Log Cabin and places like that. So my question is, if that is true, what is the rationale behind that, and is it really justified? And I don't know whose decision that is, but could you answer it for me?
Yeah, I can answer that. We did pass an ordinance to charge for the staging. We have not always provided the staging for free. I think your administration, but I think when Sigmund Rim was Commissioner of Public Works, we did charge. It's a 2-day setup for us in Public Works. I am finding out from Frank Rochetti how many men and how many hours it takes to set up and break down, because I don't think it should cost the city of Margate any money to rent out the stage. So there is no nonprofit rental available now, but actually just yesterday I talked to Frank and to Rich Deeney about the possibility of having a nonprofit rental available, which right now currently it's $1,000 to rent the small stage. So depending on what our out-of-pocket expenses to set up and break that down will determine what that nonprofit rate will be.
Okay, so is it because the employees are working on city time?
Yes.
Okay, so when the Fun Fest comes around, will the city employees be staging, putting any kind of time into the Fun Fest?
We will, and that's a good question. We've got Fun Fest,
I'm
Beach
sorry.
Stock, and
Yes, you do, and then
We're-
possibly something now in November.
Right.
So I find the rationale behind charging a nonprofit like Spin for the Cure, who's on a razor-thin budget, to charge them $1,000 or $1,600 when they're doing good in the community for whatever, lymph node and leukemia, but then it's okay to use those same employees for 2 and 3 days and paying them time and a half or double because they're working overtime to set up the Fun Fest, which the city is not the sponsor of, to set up the summertime affair, which I believe the MBA benefits from, and now to set up something in November. You know, that just doesn't wash with me. So if you're going to have some kind of set up an ordinance that you're going to be charging people, I fully expect you to be also charging the MBA and the Fun Fest for any time that you would use the fire department, the public works, whomever. And I also just find it disconcerting that the Margate Log Cabin, which uses the stage at least 3 times a year, is actually the Margate City Firemen's Log Cabin, a nonprofit, our own firemen who benefit from that club. The money that's raised from there is for the benefit of everybody in Margate. And again, I just find it, for lack of a better word, heartless that the town, I mean, these are organizations in the town, And this is stuff that happens in the town that's a lot of fun to do. If you've ever been to Spin for the Cure, you know how much fun that is. If you've been to any of the events at the Log Cabin when they have the performers there, it's a lot of fun and it's good for the town. And I think that you're taking an approach where you're cutting off your nose to spite your face to save a few dollars. And I understand that you're trying to get this, you're trying to save $1.5 million, but I think by charging for the stage, that's a small dent into the $1.5 million you're trying to save. You've hired employees since then that you may or may not have needed, which is nowhere near the $1,600 that you're going to charge. And again, I'm just bringing this up to you as an example or as a thought process that everyone that goes to the Log Cabin, however many people there are, that use that place, that now know that they have to pay $1,600 at the cabin, that their dues, potentially could go up because you want to rent the stage to them, that will come back. They'll remember that this commission is going to has charged them for that stage. The people that go to the Spin for the Cure will remember that this commission
15
charged them.
seconds, Dan, I'm sorry.
That's quite all right. Quite all right. You can interrupt me anytime. It's not the first. The $1,600 that you charge, they'll remember that when time comes. So if you're happy with that, that's fine. But if you're going to not charge the MBA or the Fun Fest for the use of our employees, I find that to be wrong, and I will not let that stand if you're going to do that. What's good for the goose is good for the gander.
We haven't changed it since you were commissioner. We will be, we're working at like a sponsorship, but there will be a payment. It'll either be payment to the city or it will be done through a sponsorship with the MBA. And we've discussed it, but we haven't finalized it, and I'll be happy to share that with you if you're interested.
Okay, so you mean that who's going to pay for the public works guys that are getting time and a half, and who's going to pay for the firemen that are working time and a half? The city? Are you going to be reimbursed?
I don't know yet, Dan. I don't know. I'll let you know when we figure
Okay,
it
well,
out.
Well, if we ask the MBA to reimburse us, they're going to be giving back our own money.
Yeah.
They're going to be giving, you're giving them.
They'll be
there's
giving
a-
us back our own money. We gave them the money, we're going to ask them for money
Right.
back. That doesn't make much sense to me.
Okay, so, I mean, you're trying to save the city money. So how does that make sense to continue to pay somebody time and a half? If you're really trying to save the city money, then that's a big place to start, isn't it? I mean, think about the money that you spend on Fun Fest and the Beach Fest, just on employees. And charging for a stage $1,600 or $1,000 compared to what you're going to pay those 2 days, does that make fiscal sense?
Thank you.
Is that a yes or a no?
Well, I have a question, because I might not have heard correctly. Did
We
you
had
say,
this-
Brenda, that we've already passed an ordinance?
Yeah, the ordinance is passed, isn't it, Rich? And
When did we,
Yeah.
for,
We did.
just refresh my memory.
There was an ordinance passed last year for a series of things, some of which have half price for nonprofits, and some of them don't. Apparently, the stage does not, and that's what Brenda was referring to, looking into, because other people have asked her about.
Right, so the ordinance did not apply to nonprofits, correct?
No, it did apply to nonprofits, but in other cases, the nonprofits pay only half for the use of certain recreation facilities.
I
It
think
did
it
not
was-
extend for some reason to the stage.
I think it was recommended.
That's
for-
a partial solution. It's not what I just heard the man say.
In the Fort
but-
Scott report, I believe it was recommended that we start to charge for some of these services that we had not in the past.
Rich, why don't you pull that ordinance and maybe we can all look at it again and see?
Yeah, I think it would behoove all of you to look at that ordinance again and find a way around this, because it's just cold to me. It's heartless and mean that you would charge charitable organizations and nonprofits for the use of the stage. We're all taxpayers. I mean, let's get something back from the city on this. you
Wait
know?
1 second, Dan. Hey, Rich, did I hear you say that the stage rental or a fee is not in that ordinance?
It is in the ordinance.
No, it's in the ordinance, but part of that ordinance has a different rate structure for nonprofits. And apparently, the nonprofit rate structure didn't extend to the rental of stages.
Okay. Okay.
All right, well, I would appreciate it if you would look into that and, do something about it. Scott, you're a log cabin member. It doesn't sit well, does it? It's not fair.
Put me in a tough position here, Dan. I'm not even sure what the ordinance says, but I think you heard the mayor say, we'll take a look at it.
Okay, I don't mean to put you in a tough position. Half this room are log cabin members,
Yeah.
and half of us go to Spin for the Cure and the other organizations. I just think it's really cold. All right, so if you could do that, I'd appreciate it.
Will do.
Anyone else?
Sewell, 22 West Drive. I thank former Commissioner Daniel Campbell for setting a 3-minute parameter which I can emulate and formulate and milk it for a good 6 minutes or more.
Yeah, but he doesn't come every week, John.
Well, all the more reason
John,
that
when
he
you-
should show up more frequently.
When you divide that by 6 years that I've known Dan, it's not so bad after all. Really.
Well, but the whole point is that the theme of his presentation was equal treatment of all parties. And he struck a fine chord with his MBA comments. I'm on board with the Commissioner Campbell's comments concerning that. But since the days are getting lighter and a little warmer every day, perhaps the mayor could have read or should have read about the unfortunate incident in Lakewood where a 10-month-old infant sustained life-threatening injuries from a pit bull. And Mayor, as you know, we can't pass breed-specific ordinances or resolutions. That's not permitted in this particular state. However, nothing restrains this commission from a common sense approach that would apply to all dogs of a specific weight. And once again, I urge this commission to consider an ordinance that would require all dogs over 20 pounds of weight to have a non-invasive, non-intrusive cloth jaw strap costing less than $5. And this would prevent the mayhem by dogs and prevent the situation where officers are often forced to use deadly force to restrain these aggressive animals. And I don't think it's a lot to have the dog wear a cloth strap because it doesn't impede the dog from drinking water, eating, or even kissing their masters. So I strongly urge this commission to adopt the ordinance because I asked the commissioners and the mayor, what would they say to a parent whose child was severely mauled and required hundreds of thousands of dollars of corrective plastic surgery? What would you tell this parent if this child, this infant, were to die? Because if the clamping of the head had been on the jugular vein, this infant would have died in a matter of minutes. So I think about this when you stonewall any attempt to control vicious dogs. This cloth jaw strap is a minimally invasive request, and I strongly, strongly urge this commission to adopt it because, as Fred will tell you, these remarks are a matter of public record. And I'll be the first one to request a tape of this meeting where this request went out, and you three people have turned a deaf ear to protecting the most defenseless people in our community, little children, because it's only a matter of time. In fact, Dan Campbell might remember that Vaughn Reel's son recently, in the past year or so, had his son mauled by a vicious dog. And we don't aggressively pursue the vicious dog ordinance in this town. And as a result, each incident happens, time passes by and we forget about it. But there's going to be a deadly incident, Mayor, and it's going to be on your watch, and it's going to be on your gross negligence not to stand up on behalf of these little children and protect them. So Mayor, when it happens, you better bet I'm going to beat that drum loud and clear that you didn't have the backbone and the intestinal fortitude to protect tender-aged children in our community. And I will make it my goal and my objective to make each and every voting citizen in this town aware of your gross negligence. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Sharon Simon, 424 North Olo. You're going to have to speak to who's in charge of the dog catcher now. That would be Commissioner Blumberg, no longer the mayor.
I disagree. I think that what John was speaking of is a matter of public safety, and his remarks are addressed to the mayor appropriately.
I don't know. Well, maybe it would happen in front of a building, and therefore Commissioner Tobby would be in charge of it. She's in charge of all buildings. So, Commissioner Tobby, your remark about Ford Scott, I don't think our auditor should be setting policy for us. Certainly, if they want to bring up some cost-saving measures, I would hope that then they would be discussed fully and with the public if we were going to start charging for the stage. There was a lot of things in that resolution, a lot of which I know some people didn't agree with, but went through. There was an article, a letter written back in December. It was written by Commissioner Tobby in regard to a letter I had written. And in it you say, everyone is entitled to his or own opinion, but not their own facts. It is important to me that all our constituents receive correct information and therefore found it necessary to address my letter of the previous week, which I believe was about the business administrator. And in those letters, and sometimes you say that you're wearing your PR hat. So I'm going to ask that you take off your PR hat and put on your good government hat and address the comments in your December letter and the ad that was placed in the Current. As to not put you on the spot, I ask that you provide the answers to the following questions in several venues. A letter in next week's Current, and the next couple of public meetings, the Margate website, and the spring newsletter to keep all constituents informed with the true state of affairs in Margate, not the PR version. The questions are this, and I have copies, I will give them to you. How was the hire of the business administrator, a new auditor, and engineer/project manager, how has it saved and will continue to save the taxpayers literally millions of dollars annually? That was in the ad. When I put out information that you don't believe is correct, you're out there telling me how it isn't. So the people want to know this. How much did we increase spending in 2012? And how does this compare to the last 3 years? With particular attention to attorneys' fees for the whistleblower and malicious prosecution suits, contract negotiations, and labor issues. New hires, including the engineer/project manager. Feasibility and labor studies, including building department and police department. Is your challenge to save $1,050,000 on top of the millions we've already saved? Will there be a tax refund or cut in 2013 based on the millions we've saved? What were the estimates to build the firehouse, one firehouse, on Jerome Avenue to replace 1 and 2? I believe it was more expensive than the renovations to the 2, which is why the public didn't want to go for it. What was the estimate for Station 1, and what are the actual expenditures to date? What is the estimate for necessary fire Station 2 work? I believe the ad said it's a dead issue. I don't know how all those problems and concerns just went away because it's a dead issue. How has the debt been cut by $2 million? How much was appropriated for road improvements? How much have we spent? What is the cost and time frame for the
15
remaining road
seconds, Sharon.
improvements? What is our debt history for the last 5 years? The taxpayers look forward to hearing these answers to these questions. I also ask, 3-minute rule is so people don't go on, and I understand that. But for you to, at 3 minutes, rudely interrupt people is just wrong. If people have important things to ask about the government, and because you don't put enough information out there, we have to wait till public participation to get it, you should at least answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Steve Altman, 9003 Amherst Avenue, Margate. I didn't really have something specific, but just listening this afternoon, I felt the need to say that I've been very preoccupied with putting my home back together. and I have had the opportunity to experience some of our employees, our city employees, who have been humane, gentle, caring, professional, enormously helpful during these last 6 months. And to me, the work that Jimmy does, his department, Frank's department and his efforts, Mr. Wahlberg, the remarkable work done by Scott Abbott. And I sense, and I hope I haven't forgotten somebody important, but everybody has pulled together in an absolutely incredible way. I'm very proud that Margate is leading the state of New Jersey in many respects on dealing with FEMA. You're all to be complimented. You all have shown a remarkable love for the community. I honestly believe with my whole heart that our commission, in part and collectively, have tried to step up to the plate of this disaster and to bring their best feet forward, and I compliment them all. Mr. Mayor, I truly believe you've stepped up to the plate in a way that I hadn't seen before, and I compliment you on that. Much like our president during the Civil War, you saw your job and you've done it. And just as he emancipated the slaves, again, I'm going to ask you to consider emancipating all of the community and change the beach block parking regulations somehow. So I add that in as a final note to say this is a remarkable community with remarkable people doing just incredible jobs under enormous stress. And I thank you all.
Thank you very much for your comments. Anyone else? Is there a motion to close public comment?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Mr. Talby?
Yes.
Is there any comment on resolutions? Our second reading of ordinance, there a second? Yeah, there is. Okay.
Mr. Hill, should I mention that other resolution? Tom?
Pardon me?
Should we measure?
But
mention that
Annie
other one?
and Steve
I did get
made
the other one, yeah.
available, and that's the
Should we
referendum to see.
Oh,
what
as soon as you were done with
the
Poe.
people
Oh, I'm
want.
sorry, you're right. They
Yeah,
might,
hold on.
they may want to. Scott, why don't you just,
John,
there
can you-
was, excuse me, John.
John,
There was
up there.
one item that got left off the
1 second
agenda.
before you start.
Scott, would you just,
I'll be very brief, Mr. Sewell, if you would like to just remain standing for a moment.
This Hulk can handle it.
Okay. There's an additional resolution. You'll see the resolution regarding the boiler operator, sealed boiler operator, number
Shared
52.
services.
And there was also supposed to be a resolution attached to that authorizing the city to sign a contract with the Board of Ed to formalize the acceptance of title from the school. And there are some covenants in that agreement, one of them being that the city will continue to allow the school to store items from their recreation department. I think it's 1,000 square feet, specified to be above base flood elevation so that the equipment will not be inundated with floodwaters if we get another hurricane. And basically, it just formalizes the acceptance of title. The other aspect of it is I'm not quite sure what day we're going to officially accept title, but I know it's very soon. But that resolution I wanted to see that on here, and it is now, Tom. You have it there with you. What number do you want to give that?
we'll have to give it number 62, even though it goes
All
part
right.
and parcel to 52, but we're going to have to give it 62.
And Mayor and Commissioners, it really is just to formalize the ordinance that you already adopted, agreeing to accept title to this building we know as Union Avenue School. And that's all. I just want to make sure it's on the record.
The transfer of title, just for the public, is, I believe, next Thursday, the 28th at 10 o'clock,
Well,
at a
that
site to
would
be
wonderful.
determined.
Okay.
You can incorporate everything by reference.
What's that now?
You can incorporate it by reference, your oral presentation.
Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Sewell, for your assistance.
No extra charge.
It truly is kinder and gentler.
It's a George Bush era. Ordinance number 03, Mayor. I see no language here specifying in a most express manner that this bonding ordinance will mandate retirement of this bond upon receipt of federal monies or a portion thereof. Can we incorporate that by reference, solicitor?
I don't think that's necessary, and I believe
I think we've all agreed to do that, and
that is clearly the intent.
Well, then we have a unanimous decision on that these bonds will be retired, and so bonded indebtedness can be brought down.
I really don't think
It's a
appropriate.
requirement. You have to do it anyway, so you don't even need it. By state and local finance board and their rules, you have to do that.
Thank you, City Clerk.
You're welcome.
Onward to number 54, Mayor. I do commend everybody for negotiating a contract. However, I'd like to remind the city administrator that the federal civil service, the increases over the past 3 years have been 0, 0, and 0. I'd further like to remind the city administrator that based upon the shift scheduling of this particular department, the manpower exceeds by approximately 5 the recommended or average manpower, woman power fulfillment of these shifts. So we should scrutinize that going forward to see if not through further attrition, the cost of running the department can be brought more in line. And I spoke to the city administrator before the 4 o'clock hearing, reminding him that the 800-pound gorilla continues to be the school budget. And we cannot continue to have a rogue school board that doesn't abide by the state mandate and the governor's call for a 2% cap on spending. I would like to remind the mayor that
John,
he...
we're talking on resolutions and ordinances.
We are talking about on resolutions. We're talking about the execution of contracts. And therefore, I would like this commission, as it becomes the Board of Estimates, to finally remind the school board that they cannot continue their fiscally irresponsible practices, particularly when the results of this education, after
15 seconds.
after 9 and 10 years of education, we have 11.5% of the 8th graders unable to be proficient in math. And they cannot become the future Mr. Dini's of the world. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, John.
Karen Simon, 424 North Thurlow Avenue. I didn't know I had to do that again. John, don't underestimate those 8th graders. They could be Mr. Dini's, they could be Mayor Becker's, they could be Tom Hiltner's. They could be Sharon Simon's. Number 52, Shared Services Agreement with Board of Education for Black Seal. I thought at the last meeting, we were talking about the fact that there was somebody in Public Works who was getting their license or whatever.
Black Seal.
Black Seal. So I'm not sure what does this mean, shared services with the Board of Ed?
This starts now and actually it starts January 1st and it terminates June 30th. So we don't know what's going to happen, what our needs will be beyond this heating season, but we're required now to have a Black Seal, and if we take possession of this building within the next week, we need to continue to contract with the school board to be able to cover that time.
Okay, so it's just till June, and then we'll reevaluate. Okay, thank you. Number 56, reappoint Linda Morgan as Deputy Tax Clerk. I just want to say Linda has been an incredible professional representative of the city, and I'm very pleased that she's being reappointed. Thank you.
Anyone else? A motion to close this portion of public comment.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Mr. Taube?
Yes.
Second reading of ordinance 2013-03, providing for various capital improvements in the amount of $945,000.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Taube?
Yes.
We have resolution number 48, authorizing the payment of claims and payroll.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Taube?
Yes.
49 amends the temporary budget for the year 2013.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Taube?
Yes.
Ms. Taube. Number 50, awards emergency contract to Calvi Electric not to exceed $45,000 for various electrical repairs at Union Avenue School, City Hall, and Lifeguard Headquarters.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Taube?
Yes.
51, authorizes Innovative Risk Solutions as the broker of record for the life and accidental death and disability insurance with Harleysville.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Taube?
Yes.
52, authorizes a shared services agreement with the Board of Ed for the Black Seal operator.
Make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Taube?
Yes.
53, awards professional services contract with Associates for Life Enhancement. It's an EAP program not to exceed $400 per month.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Taube?
Yes.
54, authorizes execution of FMBA Local 41 for 3 years.
I will proudly make that.
Second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Taube?
Yes.
And 55, approves change order number 2 for the 2011 state aid reconstruction, Amherst Avenue, reducing it by $10,426.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Taube?
Yes.
And 56, reappoints Linda Morgan as deputy tax collector.
And I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Taube?
Yes.
57, opposes Assembly Bill 1196, first responders workers' compensation presumption.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Taube?
Yes.
58, approves change orders 1, 2, and 3 for remediation specialists. The number 1's a decrease, and number 2 and 3 are increases, and the individual amounts are listed.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Taube?
Yes.
59, approves a tax lien redemption.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Taube?
Yes.
Number 60, awards a contract to Warnock Fleet of East Hanover, New Jersey for the purchase of a 2013 Ford Explorer in the amount of $24,708.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Taube?
Yes.
And 61 is urging the governor to rescind the order applying the FEMA preliminary advisory base flood elevation map standards.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
I
Mr.
have a
Becker?
question. I have a question. Mr. Abbott, is there any downside to us passing this at this point with all the negotiations going on?
Well, I mean, that did run through my mind, but I think it's good to keep the pressure on. We can't get complacent, on the one hand. I don't really think it's going to offend anybody to the point where this new spirit of trying to work with the shore communities would be damaged. So I feel that it's okay. I'd like to ask Jimmy Galantino, how do you feel about it? You've been living and breathing this too, so.
I think you're on point with a lot of issues here. I don't see why we shouldn't keep the pressure out. What we've been doing for the last 4 months, we've been pounding the turf over there, trying to get them to make a resolution to stop what they're doing. I mean, Mike, Mayor, you've been to how many meetings now? I mean, do you think we're getting somewhere with these people?
Good question.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've made progress with them.
Think so?
Oh, definitely.
But-
I think just for the public, to digress for a minute, at all these meetings, Margate is among the leaders. We're the leaders in both counties. We've had people there today from Beach Haven and all other, and I'm really proud of that. So, I mean, all of you people have stepped up. You really have, and I'm very, very proud of you. So, okay, I'm okay with this. Good, sorry.
Do we have a motion?
I believe we do.
And we have a second?
Yes, I made the motion.
I seconded it.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Taube?
Yes.
And 62 was previously identified by Mr. Abbott is the execution agreement for the transfer of title from Union Avenue School to the city of Margate.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Taube?
Yes.
And 63, I believe the aforementioned executive session which will authorize regarding anticipated litigation regarding...
I will make that motion.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Becker?
Yes.
Mr. Blumberg?
Yes.
Ms. Tawny?
Yes.
It is 6:04.
Okay.
Thank you all for being here. We're going to go to executive session. When we come out, we'll reconvene and adjourn. Thank you.
Before we go in, what do you want?